Hello and welcome back to the Naked Expat channel. It probably has not escaped your notice that there's been a lot of talk recently about this poor American chap that's been, seems to be the victim of a very vindictive ex-partner, and he's fallen foul of the vulnerable women and children's laws of the Philippines. Now, I'm not familiar with the case in its entirety. His situation was first discussed and made public by another British vlogger with a popular YouTube channel, and picked up by Philippine P, who most people are aware of is a very well established YouTuber in the Philippines. And Philippine P had obviously got her lawyer to comment on the case, and without not knowing the case in depth, gave his professional opinion on what the future looks like for this poor American chap, who, if you don't know, was accused of verbally abusing his ex-partner, not physically, but just verbally. And those accusations have been substantiated by her family. Surprise, surprise. Well, probably won't come as any surprise to anybody, because families stick together, you know, blood is thicker than water. And he's been in jail pending his court case for the last 3 years, trying to fight his case. And apparently he's lost a lot of weight and everything else. Terrible situation. Nobody would ever wish that on anybody. And it seems the whole basis of it seems to be verbal abuse, and the ex-partner being potentially very vindictive. Apparently he has a new partner, and that might have been the catalyst for her taking this case against him. I don't know. There could be more into it. You know, some people believe that there's no smoke without fire, and there could be more into it. But certainly if she's got text messages and any verbal abuse is being corroborated by her family members, that is sufficient grounds for him to have been arrested and put in jail pending a court case. In case you are not aware, if you are arrested because of the potential crimes against vulnerable women and children's law, it's a non-bailable offence. So you're going to jail, and then you've got to fight your case. Well, this American chap has been in jail for 3 years. So you wouldn't wish that on anybody, really, would you guys? Now, this has created a lot of comment online. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are now saying, look, this is potentially crazy. I feel really vulnerable. You know, this is going to ruin the Philippines, etc., etc. Now, none of us know the ins and outs, the intricacies of the case. So it would be unfair to automatically assume that the American guy isn't without any guilt. He might not be 100% squeaky clean, but if the evidence against him is purely verbal abuse, which according to Filipino P's lawyer, still carries a potential prison sentence of 6 years, bearing in mind he's already served 3 years in jail pending his case. And the lawyer's professional opinion is that the judge will, at the very least, which has been talked about very recently over the last day or so, the guy is going to get deported. So the best case scenario is he's been deported out of the Philippines, and of course he won't ever be allowed to come back in again. Now, if he was to, I don't think he has children, but if he had children in the Philippines, well, I mean, that would be heartbreaking. But no matter what way you look at it, if just for mere verbal abuse and altercations, your partner, you know, a woman scorned, you know, can file a case against you, and have family members, friends, extended families, etc., extended members of the family corroborate her story, then this is very worrying for expats or potential expats, even tourists, because people can make those claims against you, and you're up the creek without a paddle. Is it a load of fuss over nothing? No, it's not. Should potential expats or expats be concerned about it? Yes, you should. Now, is there a way around it? Well, not really, because if you live in the Philippines, as I've always said, guys that have watched some of my other videos, I always go on about family, family, family. And no matter what you think, if you do not believe that a Filipina thinks about family, family, family first rather than you, you're misguided. Because at some point or another, you'll discover that, funnily enough, it's in their culture, it's ingrained in their psyche, it's in their DNA, it's in their genes. Families come first. A lot of Filipinos might have sacrificed earnings potential to send money back to their family because they got involved with you. And that's why they expect you to give an allowance, of which some of it she'll send back to their family, because it's about family, family, family. It also stands for something else in a minute, which I'll come on to. Now, what can you do about it? Any regular viewers of my YouTube channel will know that sometimes, although I can think literally, it's very good to think laterally as well. Now, what can you do? Is it the end of expat and Filipino relationships? Well, no, because it's true. Filipinos can make very loving and attentive and loyal girlfriends, fiancés and wives. Of course they can. That's not going to change. Irrespective of whether you think a large age gap is acceptable or not, that's not the topic for this video. But what can you do about it if you are rightfully concerned about these laws being weaponized by vindictive ex-partners against you and you're living in the Philippines? Is it a worry? Well, hell yes, it should be a worry. Of course it should be a worry. Okay, well, thinking positively, what can you do about it? There's been several instances in the past with people commenting, and it's something that I've actually done myself. So I'm not going to suggest something that I have actually done myself. About 16 years ago, I travelled from Thailand to the Philippines with a friend of mine, and it was my first visit to the Philippines. And we went to Cebu, and I met a girl there on the beach who it was a Sunday, so her college was closed for the day, and all the college members were having a little barbecue party on the beach in Mactan, Lapu-Lapu. And I met her, and of course, totally fell in love. And, you know, at the time, I was 43 and she was 23. So there was a 20-year age difference, which you want a baby. But there was a 20-year age difference. But I really liked her. And bear in mind, I was living in Thailand, but I was bowled over by how lovely and friendly and warm she was. And we could have a great conversation because we spoke very good English. So, surprise, surprise, a few weeks later, I was back in Philippines, having returned to Thailand, continued to talk with her over the internet, went back to Thailand, went back to the Philippines, and I, after a bit of paperwork, flew her back to Thailand, and we lived very happily for 3 years. Well, why did it break up? Well, surprise, surprise, she was then 26, and she wanted to have kids, and I didn't. You know, I was 46, but I didn't really want kids. You know, I had quite a busy business in Thailand at the time, and I just didn't want it. She went on to marry an Australian guy and have a lovely family. She lives in Australia, so it's fantastic. So it all worked out well in the end. And it's surprising as, you know, what goes around comes around, because I'm a solo parent, as I've shared with you guys before. So I did end up being a parent, but anyway, that's another story. On that basis, a very good idea, because we all know that some Filipinos, not all, but some Filipinos make wonderful girlfriends, fiancé, wives. But because of this law, and what's come to pass with this American chap, it's a real eye-opener and an awakening for a lot of you expat guys or potential expats about one of the major downfalls of the Philippines. In that, again, you've heard it on my videos before, never, ever, ever forget, as an expat, you do not have the same rights as a local citizen. Never, ever forget that. Doesn't matter whether it's something as serious like this, doesn't matter whether there's accusations of verbal abuse or sexual abuse or physical violence. It doesn't matter if it's a road traffic accident, whatever. You're guilty unless you can prove otherwise. And if there's a lot of people, family members on the other side saying it's your fault and you are guilty, you got like 10 against 1. Just like, you know, if you get into a fight with a tie, they're all brave, but there's 10 of them against you, you know. So you got to be careful, guys. So what can you do? Well, meet a lovely Filipina by all means. But as I've said before, along with all of your assets that might be offshore, do what I did previously and make your Filipina FedEx. There's a little bit of fun, a little bit of change of play on words. What's that all about then, FedEx? Well, although the acronym doesn't really quite fit, I'm thinking Filipina and expat. And you FedEx. In other words, you meet and fall in love in the Philippines, and you package her up along with you. There's you and her. You export her out of the Philippines. How does that benefit you as well? Well, you're in another country. Now, I know there's a few hoops to jump through if you want to go and you're American or you're Westerner, British, European, Australian, and you meet her in the Philippines, absolutely fantastic, but you're really worried about these local laws, and obviously once the honeymoon period's over, something could go wrong. But it's a real strength of a relationship if she doesn't get homesick. And also, remember, always, just like you can take a girl out of the bar, but you can't take the bar out of the girl, surprise, surprise, you take a Filipino out of the Philippines, then see how much she loves you. See if she feels homesick. See if a lot of Filipinos love the food in Thailand, love the lifestyle in Thailand. They'll always have that element of guilt because their family will be nagging them all the time, But you've ring-fenced her from her family. So that's in your favour, family, family, family. Well, if you're not in the country, although they can WhatsApp, FaceTime, message each other and chat, the thing is, you can also have intelligent, mature conversations with her away from that family influence and say, look, I'm on a budget. We love each other. We'll stick here. We can send a little bit of money back to your family as and when, but you're not in direct conflict with the country. And also, you're subject to the country of those laws where you're staying in. And for me, it was Thailand. But anyway, no, you might want to be in Thailand. You might want to be in Malaysia. Singapore's a bit expensive. Indonesia, Bali, etc. Or you might want to be in Europe. You probably don't want to go back to the US or the UK because those are the reasons you want to become an expat, to get away from all of the sort of crabby attitudes and the bad weather in some instances. And of course, it's very difficult, especially for you guys that kid yourself that large age gaps, there's no problem. Well, people might not look at you twice in Asia because they'll be looking at the woman saying, oh, you got a good one, well done you, lucky you. As you got a brother, But trust me, because I had it with a friend of mine whose Thai wife was only about 25 and he was in his mid-60s, and she hated the UK and she hated Europe because wherever they went, they just got looks of disdain and disgust. And it took a toll on their relationship in the end. They just couldn't hack it. It failed in the end. But it doesn't always happen, certainly if you stay around Asia and stuff. But it's doable, and it's doable if you meet a nice Filipina and she's not a baby. You haven't got her at the puppy farm, and you want to go and live in, say, Europe, for example. Now, an interesting one is Spain. Now, you might think, well, why Spain? Well, funnily enough, because the Spanish raped and pillaged the Philippines a few hundred years ago, they're kind of feeling guilty about it. So a Filipina can go and live in Spain, and after 2 years, she can get residency. Whereas all of us other Western guys, it takes about 5 years. And that's like a special little sweetener Spanish have got with the Philippines. In a way to say, oh, sorry, we kind of raped and pillaged your country, and sorry about Catholicism, we might have messed up there. No, don't. Religion and politics, probably not a good place to go on YouTube. But anyway, it's a good idea. Climate's quite nice. You're not far from Portugal if you want to check out Portugal. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of hoops to jump through. I know it's not relatively straightforward for you or a Filipina to move and live in another country. But Naked Expat, I'm here to give you some ideas. Because if the change in the law that's supposed to protect vulnerable women and children is going to be abused, potentially abused, would seem to have been abused in this instance with the American, although we don't know all of the facts, fair to say that. If it's a law that's potentially going to be weaponized by vindictive ex-partners, it should be a concern for everybody. That doesn't mean to say if you want to live in the Philippines, you've got to stay single all your life. No. You pay your money, you take your chance. Like, for example, I had a comment from a guy in his 70s saying, I'm quite virile, I'm quite fit, and if I want a Filipino, I'll go and have a little bit of fun. And he just gets a bar girl or something and has a little bit of fun every few days of the week. Well, if that's what you want to do, then fine. But the problem is, if you're virile in your 70s, you're highly unlikely to be that active, sexually or otherwise, in your 80s. And if you're just being Mr. Playboy all the time, you're going to end up that sad, lonely old man, because nobody is going to look after you in your 80s unless you pay them to do it. So you have none of that genuine love and compassion at the end of your life unless you pay for nurses to do it. It's not very genuine. It's very superficial then. That's my own personal feeling. So one thing that worries me, for all expats, everybody watching this, finances, money is basically health and wealth. That's the two things that are either going to make your expat journey your expat life great, and can also, if you run out of money or you run out of luck when it comes to your health, can really turn around and bite you in the ass. Now, I'm going to talk about health insurance in a few days' time. I've been doing some research, and certainly, you guys, if you've got Pacific Cross, you need to watch that video when it comes online, because I've got a few little caveats that you might not even be aware of, which you do need to be. I'm not saying Pacific Cross is rubbish, because it's not, but look out for that video. But in any respects, back to this. Now, go and live in another country. Yeah, totally doable. And you can look at doing that if you're an expat. Don't forget, if you're transient, you need to think about being an expat. Filipina, fantastic. Do you need to live with her in the Philippines? Not necessarily. You can live elsewhere. I did. I'm British. She was Filipina. And we were living in Thailand. It was fine. It might suit you better. So, in a nutshell, don't worry about this law if you take your blinkers off. If you want to stay here as an expat with a Filipina and everything goes hunky-dory for the rest of your life, then fine. But if one of you gets disgruntled, or the 7-year itch, the honeymoon period finishes, you have to be really, really careful. It may be that if she leaves you, that's the best option, even if you're heartbroken, because like I said, a woman scorned, or if you treat her badly and just throw her out and think there's not going to be any repercussions, think again. Or if she takes it on the chin, she might be okay for a few months. But even if you move provinces and somewhere else, you know, the jungle drums, the Chinese whispers in the Philippines, you're amazed. It's just like in Thailand. You can be in one province and you can discuss or talk about something or be seen with a person. And lo and behold, when you come back to a different province, everybody knows what you were doing. Because it's like Chinese whispers, the jungle drums. It happens everywhere, especially in Asia. No, you're never 2 or 3 steps further than 2 or 3 steps away from somebody that knows your secrets or can find out. So on that basis, it's very, very difficult to leave a relationship with a Filipina and for her not to feel embittered if you acted a bit of an asshole. Now, she might take it on the chin initially, but then what happens if she sees you with another woman? Then that monster comes out. Tampo. That monster comes out, and then you have to be very, very careful, because she can quite easily, just like anybody can go into police station and report you for rape or anything like that, they can go in the police station and file a case against you. And you will be arrested, and it's a non-bailable offence. If she just needs text messages and backup from somebody else, any witnesses. That is all they need to get you in jail, pending a case. So is it potentially a worry? Hell yes, it is. Should you be aware of it? Yes, you should be. And there are ways around it, guys. And the other, I did promise you FFF, family, family, family. What else? Well, I'm not going to say the word, F word, but Filipina, foreigner, fly away. You know what the alternative is, don't you? That's your choice. That's what you can do, guys. Find a lovely Filipina, fall in love, be happy. Go and live in another country with her. And that will come on to my next video about international health insurance, rather than being wedded to something that just covers you for permanent residency in the Philippines and short trips abroad. I'm going to be talking about something that's more international. So I hope you found this of interest. Stay safe out there. Until next time, enjoy.